One. Hi, folks. This is Samuel Huber from SamuelHuber.net, Samuel Huber on YouTube, Samuel Huber on Facebook, Huber Family Adventures on Instagram. I'm here today with Maisie for another episode of Heroes of Autism. Hey, Maisie, can you tell my audience a bit about yourself?
Hey, Sam. Thanks for having me today. So, about myself, I am actually the founder of Autism Career Pathways. It's a new nonprofit here in San Francisco Bay Area. So I started that project last year, and the goal is to figure out how to increase autism employability or neurodiverse employability, of course. And I've been working with families raising special needs kids for about 30 years. So my clients, of course, grow up, and it's very sad for me to see that some of them are in college or they have multiple degrees, but their career pathways is still not well defined. They still have nowhere to go in terms of being able to get a job that they like and so on. So that's why I started Autism Career Pathways last year. So what we want to do is actually build a robust video libraries, short video series showing small businesses how to screen, assess, integrate, and support neurodiverse young adults. So I really want to educate our community and small businesses. Why small businesses? Because they're more open to maybe hiring part-time, and also smaller businesses are quieter and slower, which is perfect, like a library, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we have neurodiverse people working at every library across US, right? So I have a client who loves working at the library. You know, it's quiet, slower, and he doesn't have to work full time there. So it's a perfect environment for neurodiverse people. So there's so much that I feel like we lack common language to bridge that gap. And there are a lot of, especially after COVID-19, I'm thinking there are many small jobs in the community that can be outsourced, you know, to neurodiverse people. So that's what the nonprofit's all about. Yeah.
That sounds like a really amazing nonprofit, and I wish we had some of that back here on the East Coast. And that, folks, that is true that a lot of people on the spectrum really struggle to find employment after college. Myself included, I got lucky and became a teacher's aide because, you know, I got lucky. But I want to say that the reason I got lucky is because I used my autism as my ticket into being a teacher's assistant. I was an assistant for children on the spectrum that have this real personal understanding of what my students go through, and that's what got me that job. And I think for a lot of Aspies out there, we're taught to mask how amazing we are, and rather than you know, I think the true lesson is how to present yourself as you are, because you know, one way or another, the quirks are going to come out during that interview. And the biggest thing that I always tell my clients, if your autism doesn't bother you, it won't bother other people. But if you're obviously struggling with that, it's going to be really hard for that person to be like, give you a chance, because they want to see that confidence. So how do you help your clients get confident enough to go in those interviews, and how do you teach them to present themselves? Because this is a huge problem for our young adults on the spectrum.
So that is the $1 million question, and such a good question. You can't teach somebody to just overnight develop the skills. Many young adults have the skills. They know what they're supposed to be saying. They know they're expected to behave in a certain way in a work environment, but because of their sensory challenges, because of their lack of confidence in themselves, and going out there in an unpredictable environment every moment of the day, that's really, really hard. right? So that's not where we start. I, as a professional and as a parent coach, I partner with parents, but I'm there to work together with parents, but ultimately the first step needs to happen the moment that you have this baby in your hand as you hold this baby, and after like a year or two that something is different about this baby as a parent. So that's the first step, is for any parent of a neurodiverse young kid to really embrace that kid's differences. You got to fall in love with their differences. You've got to nurture their differences, and you have to believe and stay hopeful that these differences can contribute to the world someday. So the first step is for that kid's parents to fall in love with whatever that may be, with the autistic traits, with the ADHD, with a global developmental delay, with, like any kind of diagnosis, because I always say it's a marathon and not a sprint. The journey is long, and the home has to be everything for this kid. He's going to have a hard time at school. He may be bullied. He might be treated differently. But at home, that kid is your child. Nobody should love that kid more than you do as his or her mom and dad. I think that's the first step. I think people forget that the relationship is the foundation in everything, whether, of course, you're at home, whether you're at work, whether, you're at school. Relationship is the first thing. So if the relationship is secure, if parents understand that my kid is like this, these are his or her strengths and weaknesses, then you can empower this kid to be the best that he or she can, not to get rid of the diagnosis, the condition, whatever that may be, because that's not going to go away. I realize that I'm a neurodiverse myself. I just have the self-awareness and the coping mechanism that I just learned throughout the year, as you have, Sam. So you just know, how to do the best that you can, but that doesn't develop over time, right?
No.
So yeah.
I mean, it takes time. It's a process. It's a process where your child's neurotypical or neurodiverse.
Right.
Really getting to know how your child communicates and speaks. Is your child a visual learner? Are they an auditory learner?
Right.
And one of the things that I've discovered over the years as being a teacher's assistant and now working in early intervention is learning to meet the child at where they're at that moment. And remember, where your child's at that moment is temporary, that things do get better. For example, when I was little, I could only speak 1 to 2 syllable words, but my parents sat down with me, and by the fact my dad's a writer, he spent time with me to help me understand why words are so important, and why pronouncing them is, so vital.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, like it's just such an important connection. And but what are some ways that you help parents get down to their kids' level and really actually understand them, rather than try to force their will upon their kids?
Yeah. Well, you already said it. You meet them where they are. You also go with their interests. So my son has an incredible talent he pays great attention to details. So he's 11. And as long as I have him with me, I will never get lost. It doesn't matter what part of the world we're in, because he just recognizes just things. He recognizes, logos. Like he'll say, oh, the scoreboard is different, when we watch basketball or, football, from 1 week to last week, he will say that's different, and he'll tell me, and I'm like, what? You know? so that's he picks up those little details,
Mhm.
um and none of us do. And he loves circular things, like, so he loves roller coasters, that things that move in a circular way, and it repeats. He's always been like that. So
Mhm.
he's got different collections of toys that I just let him use his uh, the money he earns to buy those. He's got like over hundreds of the Beyblades, the spinning Japanese spinning tops. I don't know if you've seen those. It's a spinning top, so it's a collection. So he just keeps buying them. But we also sit down with him. My husband sits down with him and play. Like they have phrase together, and you know, um, that's nurturing what they're interested in.
Mhm.
And I don't have any interest in that, but my husband and I take turns, just sitting, and we talk about it. We look at pictures, what to save up to get next time, because I want him to know that his interest is appreciated,
Mhm.
you know, um, and I want him to dream about his future, what he wants to do, you know. I think those are kind of conversations that parents should have
Mhm.
with their kids. And if their child is pre-verbal or nonverbal,
Mhm.
in some ways, it's easier because you just explore, you follow them, and you just explore and expand their interest that way,
Mhm.
so let's say you have a kid who loves to play with things, like sensory seeking kids, your students who loves to touch everything. Why not do maybe some cooking and baking activities where you can get your hands dirty, but it has a rewarding outcome, which you can eat the product. So you do all these. That's what I mean. um you think about you can think about your child's sensory needs as a problem,
Mhm.
or you can redirect it and just get in there and create expectations
Mhm.
and show, this is the process, let's do this together, let's get our hands dirty. So gardening is another thing for kids who are sensory seeking. Maybe they love to put dirt in their mouth.
Mhm.
Why not redirect that and show them, this is what you can do with dirt. You can plant seeds, and you can water it, so that's, I think, the first step. um I think for parents, though, it's hard as a parent coach, it's hard to empower them because parents are often in a crisis mindset. So
Mhm.
I find that parents who are most challenging to work with for me as a parent coach are parents of newly diagnosed kids, because they're still in that crisis mindset. So my job is to help them, to educate them, and hopefully over time they're not so afraid of the stamp, the label, and they're in a better mindset to be able to connect. So you're right, it's the connection that's important. Without connections, and
Right.
you know
Yeah,
we're
and then
just stuck together.
yeah, and that's the hugest thing is like you as the parent realize you are the first one to define the autism label to your child. If you're staying in
Yes.
a crisis mode, they're always going to be in crisis when people talk to them about their autism. And what
Yeah.
often I tell parents is you have two choices. You can either make choices out of fear your whole life as their parent, or you can make
Right.
choices out of love. And
Right.
when you make choices out of love, your child, whether they look you in the eye or not, will pick up
Mm-hmm.
on that. When they hear something,
Yes.
tell newly diagnosed parents like we are listening to you,
Right.
people on the spectrum, and that we are picking up on a lot more than you give us credit for.
Right.
Um, but listening to you talk now, I could tell you have this deep passion that goes, I think, beyond just your own child and your own experiences.
Yeah.
Prior to the start of this recording, you told me about your experiences growing up. Do you think, if you go into that a bit, Can you go into that,
Yeah,
how that shaped your beliefs surrounding neurodiversity?
absolutely. So I have vivid memories of my mom sitting down with me after school every day, teaching me how to read. And I think I was a slow reader. Um, Back then, we didn't know much. I was born and raised in Indonesia, but my late mom was amazing. I wish she's still here today so I could ask her, so was I a picky eater, or did I do this, do that? I remember my parents telling me stories of I was such a good baby.
Mhm.
They would put me in the crib by myself, and I would just spend hours and hours just occupying myself. I was no bother to anyone. My brother is the opposite. So they lacked out maybe having me first. But anyways, when I was in school, I think I had learning challenges. It
Mhm.
took me a while to learn to read. Math, anything with numbers, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, hated it. I just didn't get it. I got the logic, but I didn't really understand. And the anxiety, and I was such a good student, meaning that when there's a test, I would get up at 3 or 4 in the morning to study. When the tests, I would forget everything. Every report card, I would get a red mark. So back then, like 6 to 9 would get blue. Of course, 9 is like A plus. If you get a 5, that's a red. 5, 4, 5.
Mhm.
5 is really bad. Sometimes you get a 4. Would be really bad. So we would be in other families. I think I it would be punishable to get. There's a consequence usually in an Asian family if you don't do well, so but my parents never bribed me. So my parents were a bit unusual because they never bribed me. They
Mhm.
tried to support me by giving me time, and also spending extra money, giving me math tutoring and things like that. But when they see my report card, they never like made me feel bad because they saw my effort. It just, math was not my thing. I just
Mhm.
didn't get it. I couldn't comprehend it. So then when I came to America, um of course I couldn't be a doctor or
Mhm.
scientist or anything in business because there would be a lot of numbers involved. you know so I just became I took psychology because I only had to do statistics. That was much more doable.
Mhm.
But I remember just having people who took me under their wing,
Mhm.
my study group at UCLA, and
Yeah.
uh, it just, moving here was really really hard.
Mhm.
But I think that was a turning point for me too, because I just learned how to be independent,
Mhm.
and if I don't understand something, I had to speak up.
Mhm.
So today I prefer hanging out one-to-one. I'm very verbal, especially with topics that I love to talk about. I love doing presentations, but it's for that topic,
Mhm.
autism related topic, or like teaching or guiding parents. I'm very comfortable. But I I often feel very awkward socially, like parties. I hate wearing costumes um, because they itch me. Yeah, so anyways, I have sensory challenges, but I've learned to advocate and problem solve over the years.
Mhm.
uh i i um I love working with people who are minimally verbal
Mhm.
because I feel like I can connect with them. So when I do home visits, that's what I do. um is I show parents to like what could be through my engagement with
Mhm.
their nonverbal family member. So when they see, oh, that's how you slow down, oh, that's how you model for the person, it's possible, and that's very empowering because parents often feel like they don't know what to do, especially when their child is bigger than them physically or faster. It's tough. It's really tough to raise a neurodiverse kid. But I'm hoping that through my work over time, they can see the possibilities through my work with their child. So as a parent coach, I'm not a therapist. I don't come and do 2 hours of therapy sessions.
Mm-hmm.
I work with the parents. We're always together. And dads are always there because, most neurodiverse kids are boys. So I feel like dads have to be involved no matter what, whether you have a son or daughter. So I love that. I love being able to do that, to include dads as early as possible. So I think I digress then. I don't know.
So in your answer there, you talked about you've learned a lot of coping skills and strategies
Yeah.
for your sensory things. Can you go a bit more into that? Because especially when you're working, because a lot
Yeah.
of that's a huge thing for ASD individuals. Like, what do I do when I'm having a sensory issue when I'm in the middle of working, or or talking to other people? So what are some of the strategies you've learned to help yourself?
So for me, I have auditory processing issues. So I can't listen and take notes. And my notes would not make sense at all. So I usually, when I was going to school, I could just listen, but we could purchase the notes. So I always purchase the notes. And then I have to do a lot of reviews. Even to today, when I go to church, I just listen. I see some people having, writing in their notebook. I can't do that. I use a lot of sticky notes. They're all over my desk. That's really helpful for me. I can't retain information very well. So when people tell me, oh, this is my nonprofit, I have to immediately write it down. Even if there's a delay, I would just forget. I'll just retain only half of it. But with technology, with Google, we can go back, find the person, LinkedIn, and I just try to prepare myself. Like I look up your YouTube recordings because I want to prepare myself before this interview, for example. So I do have my catchphrases that I use, and I do that a lot with my family members. Like go back, or what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? Or can you turn it off? Because if there's something in the background, I just can't. And that's me. I can't have noise in the background and be able to think. It just gets noisy in my head. I just can't focus that way. So, as adults, we can switch it off. We could, if I smell something that really bothers me, I would just get rid of it or go outside, so that's helpful, I think, to share with parents. Maybe trigger points for meltdowns in their kids are like sometimes it's subtle, but let's see what else. Coping strategies. Yeah, I mean, with my families, I just let loose because I don't care if they make fun of me. If they say, oh, mom, you already said that, you repeated yourself, you just asked me that, or you just said that. I'm like, really? I also ask a lot of why, because if I know the context, then maybe I'll do it. So I ask people all the time, like, why, what's happening? Why do we have to do it like that? Or, my husband said that on my tombstone, that's what he will put, like, why? With many question marks, because that's my coping mechanism. Like, I want to know the context, So other than that, it's okay. I think as adults, you just do the best that you can. I don't isolate myself. I hang out with a few friends and my own group of people, or people that I love, people who can understand me. And that's it, so
That's great. And I think the
yeah.
biggest thing I took away from your answer is the power of context. Because a lot of times my wife will be like, will tell me a feeling. I'll ask why, like, why do you? And she'll be like, why do you always need to know the why? Because it's like I need that context to be like,
You need to,
or
yeah,
in order to show like sympathy or empathy.
yeah,
Because it just to me, and I'm sure you experience this too. It's like those kind of statements are kind of like out of the blue. So
yeah,
it helps us focus on, okay, you want me to be a supportive husband right now, or for you a supportive wife, but I need to know
yeah.
why. And I think
Yeah,
that's the most important for neurodiverse people is you have to if you use your words to let people know
you have to advocate
your
for
best way
yourself.
to
Yeah,
process information. If you don't have words, some things I've made for my clients are like little business cards, like, "Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm a visual thinker. Please,
right,
please describe things in images," or
right.
um, and learn to advocate for yourself. And it seems like you've done definitely a great job. Um,
Well, it's self-advocacy for um, a successful work environment for neurodiverse people is very, very important.
mm,
I forgot to mention that as part of my pilot project through Autism Career Pathways, I created a career screening tool. So
mm,
it's all activity based, and my dream is to partner up with businesses, the flower shop, the bakery,
mm,
whatever, uh, to use this screening tool. It's all activity based. And the goal is to replace the standard verbal interview, which it's very, very hard for neurodiverse people,
mm,
to be able to pass. So it's all activity based. People come in and they have a box of fidgets to calm down. And then I just use different kinds of activities like puzzles and building marshmallow sticks with toothpicks and spaghetti strands, and they build it. And but for people who are minimally verbal, of course, you want to increase the scaffolding, right? So I print out photos. I might give written instructions, and they all did so well, so for the young adults who participated in the pilot. So that was something useful that I created, but I'm looking to hopefully uh, introduce this into companies so
mm,
that they can uh, be more open because they have this tool. Wouldn't it be great if like every small shops in your neighborhood, they just hire one neurodiverse adult?
mm,
Then that rate of hiring will pick up because everyone can do it in-house. That's the only way to go, is to be able to do this hiring process all in-house,
mm.
no matter what size of the company you have, right? So that's what I've been doing since last year, and this year I'm
Mhm.
hoping to pilot after COVID-19. I'll be able
Yeah,
to.
definitely.
Yeah.
Um, that's really great, and I think it is a good way to start with small businesses because,
Hmm.
like, I've had a lot of clients who are, try to get a job like Walmart, but then their
Hmm.
sensory issues get triggered by all the fluorescent lighting, and
Yeah.
um, I think smaller businesses are a great place to start for neurodiverse people because it's a more home
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
to the businesses, and also you're close to home. Uh,
Yes.
And I think the other huge thing that I've been learning a lot is about showing the work. Uh,
Right.
and that's an excellent way for like neurodiverse people to get jobs is like create a
Hmm.
portfolio of the thing that they are able to do. If that's recording a video of yourself doing the task, or
Yeah.
there are so many avenues that doing an interview is not just one way of sitting in a room and talking to someone.
Right. right. I've seen those video resumes. They're really, really cool because you can add captions and things like that. So
Yeah.
we do videotape the career screening tool. So what comes out of that, it's actually like a 10-minute video with captions,
Mm-hmm.
along with a written summary
Mm-hmm.
uh, that's color coded. So the some of the candidates told me that, why don't you just color code it, so then we get it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's brilliant. So yeah, so that's what that would be helpful, is to show businesses uh like, this is the person that I might be hiring, and these are strengths, interests, aptitudes, as well as areas of needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's brilliant. I think it's great that you really seem to really listen to your clients, not just like, oh, I'm the expert, you listen to me.
No.
And I think that's a huge thing for professionals that maybe watch this video. Is I get that you're great at your job, but you have to put your ego at the door when you're working with people, not a product.
Mhm.
And that's one thing that I've had to learn, is just because I know so much about autism doesn't mean I know anything about an individual's experience with autism. That everyone has their own story, and
Yeah,
you have to learn to.
that's right. Exactly. Well, I know a lot about psychology, special needs education, designing curriculum. I have to read lots of psychology books, but when it comes to raising my kids, especially during COVID-19 and everything's out, it doesn't work. Like, every pairing of a kid and his or her parent is different. That dynamic, family dynamic, is different.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know that as a therapist, because at the therapist, you just come for a couple hours and then you leave. You give the parents homework, do this, do this, do this. And then if it doesn't work, you point you point your finger towards your parent. That's because you didn't do what I was saying. You were not being consistent. You didn't do this and that. That was me,
Mm-hmm.
years ago, when I started working as a behavioral therapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now, as a parent coach, and we used to do this thing where we take in a family, like the whole family. Sometimes they would bring their dog, like the whole family. And we would work with them like from 9 to 4, sometimes 3 to 9, because we want to see their true life, just what is it. And it was really a humbling experience. It really is not easy. I always tell professionals, be mindful, because you don't understand it. You think you do. You think you know, like, how to give parents homework, do this, do that.
Mm-hmm.
But try living it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy. Not easy. So I think my advice to professionals is always, well, one, do home visits. I always feel whatever field that you're, like, whether you're speech therapist, occupational therapist, always do a home visit,
Mm-hmm.
because home visit will give you a completely different picture
Mm-hmm.
of what, in terms of your treatment plan, how a parent can implement your homework, your assignments.
Mm-hmm.
You will have a different perspective once you do that home visit,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so different when parents come to you or the treatment is being done clinical based.
Mm-hmm.
So different. So if you can't do home visit, maybe ask parents to send you video clips. Video clips that I love to watch would be just dinner table, like families having dinner together. And then, even then, people would say, oh, we don't eat together because my kid won't sit still. No, because they can't give me that kind of video. So I think as professionals, sometimes we just work in our bubble. I used to be. Oh, it's okay. I also have a cat. My cat is in the garage. So you have your dog. As professionals, a lot of times we just get so set in our ways. I used to be like that too. Work at the clinic. The clinic has a long waiting list.
Mm-hmm.
you know, you just go, you see your one client after another and the day is all over. I don't think that's optimal. That is not, I believe that if you love what you do, you're good at it, you need to share. You don't just sit there, you know, you do more. But home visits is amazing to do for professionals. You gotta keep learning. If you work with autistic kids, talk to autistic adults, learn from autistic adults. There's so many Facebook groups, Instagram. That's really important. It just drives me nuts to, like, eye contact is one topic that it drives me crazy that people are still doing the look at me drill. You're measuring someone's progress based on the number of eye contact, or the amount of eye contact. That just drives me crazy. You know?
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that too. Like, I've learned my own tricks. I'm horrible at eye contact. The one thing I do is I count to 3 and I always come back to the person's eyes for a second, and then I go back to looking around the room. And for parents that are still trying to fight that battle, I would say don't die on that hill, because we are listening to you.
Right.
Eye contact is not equal I'm listening to you anyway. I've had people make direct eye contact with me and hold it. They like, what? What did you just like say? Like, that actually, I find that when I turn my head and look away, I can focus more on listening.
Right.
Speaking as someone who has autism, the thing is the whole physical act of making eye contact and listening at the same time. Those are, at least for autistic people, 2 completely different functions, and trying to do them at the same time is really hard. And that's where information gets lost. Because I'm thinking about, oh, I gotta make eye contact. Wait, what did that person say? Because I was thinking about the eye contact.
Exactly. And also, you cannot move people's eyeballs. You know, you can't. You just cannot control where people are looking. And actually, looking away is part of, like, now I'm looking down because I'm trying to organize my thoughts. It's very much part of our body language, our communication ways. You know, looking away is part of it. You know, people look away when there's a hard question. For example, if you videotape everyone and there's a hard question, for sure people would look down. It's just part of you know, just communication, you know. And yet autistics are being punished for not looking, you know, like looking at the other person. You know, it's just that is the one program in ABA programs that should just not be done anymore. Sometimes parents ask me, because people come to me and they still have their ABA programs, and I have nothing against, you know, home programs. There's so many good home programs, therapists, clinicians, not at all. But it's just like, learn from autistics. You have to create a program that serves a purpose. Don't just teach something in a repetitive manner. And when parents ask you, why do we have to do this? Where does it go? And then you get offended, you know, because I feel like parents should know where what is the purpose. Like, if you have IEPs, you know, it needs to be, you know, whatever you teach today, it needs to function as a foundation, right? Like building a house, everything has to be ground up. And I know that ABA, it's like top to bottom instead of bottom up. That's why generalization is really, really hard. Right? Because the kids have the dots. I mean, my young adults client, they know, they have the skills, but without the ability, the self-awareness to connect the dots, it's not going to be, you know, they will still need help, support. And yeah, so I think for professionals, that's my advice, is to do home visit and learn from autistics and practice. It just actually don't just give written homework. It just practice, connect with the clients, get to know them.
Yeah, focus on their humanity and their
Right.
strengths rather than what they're doing wrong. Like focus on where that child's at, and remember that they are human. They're different, but then
Yeah.
the thing I tell professionals, you have to think about everyone's different, no matter what kind of mind they have.
Right.
Once you accept that nothing has to be the same, it's much easier to connect with individuals.
Right.
And
And respect. I think mutual respect is really important.
mm,
If you're a clinician working with parents or a clinician working with, young children, because they may not be able to say, oh, you're talking too much, or,
mm,
you know, they would say that if they can, but they cannot. So it's up to the adult to like, oh, maybe I'm talking too much. You need to slow down. But a lot of times, clinicians and parents, we're so focused on the task. Like we're all like here, down here. We're telling the kid what to do, telling the kid what to do.
mm,
And you have a kid who's 18, well, a young adult who's 18 and still waiting to be told what to do. That is not good, you know.
right, and that's the huge thing that a lot of parents. I get the fear of letting your child to be independent, but
Yeah.
if you want your child to have a career or have
Yeah.
adult relationships, you have to let them learn the old-fashioned way, which is trial and error, uh,
Right.
and let them put themselves out there. And like, yeah, they'll be rejected a lot, but who isn't been rejected? Like, everyone's been on dates and have gone nowhere. Everyone's been on job interviews
Right.
and they've said no.
Right.
It's not specific to autistic people. Everyone faces rejection, and if you even though rejection sucks, if you always keep a child
Mm-hmm.
from feeling rejected, they're never going to be independent. Independence is
Right.
gained through rejection because you find what you want and you find the people you want to interact with. But you'll
Mm-hmm.
never find that as an adult if you are always avoiding rejection or keeping your children from facing that failure.
Right.
There's so much to learn.
Yeah. So much to learn. And I am letting my son fail with his schoolwork because if he's not accepting help from us, then he has to learn it the hard way that he's not going to pass,
Exactly.
and that's the only way he's going to learn and make himself work harder. That's a perfect example. It is really hard though, Sam. I mean, you're a parent and you love your kids so much. It's really hard to let them struggle, isn't it?
It
I
is.
mean,
I'm fortunate to have a child that, like, before he could even crawl, he was like, "I want to walk." Was already like
right.
trying to figure it out, and it is hard because you don't want them to hurt themselves or
Yeah.
don't want them to be upset. But like,
Yeah.
I've noticed, like, with the help of my mother-in-law, we trained my son already to throw out his trash, and we
Yeah.
reward him with positive reinforcement. That's the hugest thing for parents, even with like a 2-year-old who just got diagnosed. Like, positive reinforcement is like the keyest, like, vital to how your child will be more willing to communicate with you. Like, every time they say a
Right.
word, piece of candy, and then you slowly fade that away
Yeah.
to the point where they just naturally want to talk to you
All
or
right.
being a task. And like in everything you say to your child, the ratio should be 4-to-1. For every constructive
Mm-hmm.
criticism comment you give your child, give 4 positive.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they didn't complete the task all the way, just the fact that they tried is a great place to start. Uh,
Right.
'Cause you
Right.
want them to do more. I mean, you wouldn't criticize your
Yeah.
husband and then be shocked that he's not willing to do something for you. But if you praise him for doing that thing, he's more willing the next time to take out the trash.
Yeah.
I'm sure you found, and I found in my own marriage, that more positive feedback I give my wife or vice versa, that person's more willing to work.
Yeah.
Even if they can't talk or they have auditory processing, everyone understands reward in some way or another. And there are so many great systems out there that you can do in the home and in school to help
Mm-hmm.
your child understand the importance of completing a task on time or on their own time and communicating.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to.
Yeah. So much to learn and so much to teach,
Mm,
like to teach your kid.
mm,
I mean, it is what it is. It's like we talk about coping mechanisms. And I see that that's one area that my son still needs to be able to do. It's tough. You know, I've been trying to teach him how to compliment others, and he won't, because he said, that's why should I say something to another person if I don't agree with it? Or if I don't see, you know, compliments is a hard one to give, you know, because you might have to say something. I mean, he's great at saying facts, you know, but complimenting your spouse, and it doesn't come naturally. Like, I have to learn from you, I think, to be able to express gratitude, and it's not a natural thing for
Right, and it's
neurodiverse people.
not a natural thing for me that my wife had to advocate for herself that she needs those compliments, and I had to advocate for it. And I think
Yeah,
the easiest, and a lot of people often say to me, "Where do I start?" I think the easiest way is to start with the golden rule. I
yeah,
twist it just a little bit. The golden
right,
rule, for those who don't know, is treat others the way you want to be treated.
right.
I flip it to treat myself the way I want to be treated.
Hmm.
And your child will pick up on that because your children are watching you. So,
Yeah,
I wanted, I love it when I'm, for your son, for example. Oh, I really like when people compliment me. Don't you want other people to feel that way too? Like, and these are facts. Like, you did a really good job, Dad, raking the yard. Um,
right.
and like, and I saying like it's like a emotional fact. Like that's what I would tell your son if I was working with him. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I guess there are certain words, they are a certain sentence. They just have to expand the sentence, right? So instead of say, "Oh, you rake the yard," you attach like you're doing a good job raking the yard. That turns it into a compliment. That's
exactly.
brilliant.
Yeah, that's the place to start. Just like, if you show your self-respect, your child will want to show him or her self-respect. But if you're
Right.
beating yourself up for being a crappy parent or whatever,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
gonna beat themselves up for being a crappy child.
Right.
And neither of you are those things. That what you are is human. You can
Right.
kind of make mistakes, but how you react to your mistakes,
That's right.
what your child learns from, and what you learn from, is how you react.
Right.
You react out of
Right.
fear and you beat yourself up, then you're going to
Mhm.
be miserable. But if you act out of love and compassion, like,
Mhm.
oh, that was really hard.
Yeah.
Let's try something different next time we have that experience. Um,
Yeah.
you'll get farther with being a parent and with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why parents have to get out of the crisis mindset, because you do have to model your
Mm,
best and all the things uh, that come with being a kind person towards others, and
and yourself.
and I tell the parents I work with, even kids or people who are minimally verbal, they can be kind
Mm,
towards others, and people are like, oh, that, I guess that's right. Because, for example, like, how to be helpful,
mm,
like to just open, like hold the door open and let other people pass.
yeah.
Anyone can do that. you know um
And like,
right.
yeah, and I actually have a great story, quick story for parents.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like, I had one student who was 16, 17-year-olds, could not speak a word.
Yeah.
And he was noticing another student being aggressive
Hmm.
towards the teacher. And this student, who has never said a word, let out a loud growl and stood between the the other student and the teacher, and physically picked up the other student and moved him out of the room. Because this kid's like built like a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And then he like came over and patted the teacher on the back, like, and like in a nonverbal way, say, "Are you okay?" Like,
Right.
his eyes. So like,
Oh,
there are. I mean, we don't condone students picking up each other, but the
right.
fact that he did it out of kindness
Yeah,
to protect
that's
this,
incredible.
um, and that's what I always tell parents who have nonverbal children that may never use the words. Like, they are looking
Yeah.
to be kind, but the
Right.
way they learn to be kind is you have to be kind to them
Yes, absolutely.
and show them and showing this kindness between you and your partner. And
Right.
you'll have moments like the one I just described, or ones I'm sure you have
Mm-hmm.
seen, where
Mm-hmm.
people that speak very little or not at all can be
Mm-hmm.
kind. And then celebrate those moments of kindness, then they'll want to be kind more often.
Right. Right. And I think if we can teach our neurodiverse kids to have good manners and be kind towards others, they're going to stand out, you know, in
Definitely.
the workplace. In the workplace that they're going to stand out, because I feel like it's a lost art for this young generation, because everybody's so into themselves and everybody's so into their devices. So I feel like just being able to raise polite, young people who are kind and can just be helpful, hold the door, carrying bags for grandma, things like, you don't have to be verbal, or just being able to use the sign thank you, or smile. I
Definitely.
think that's gonna serve them well in the future.
I definitely agree, and I think that's a huge message. Hashtag be kind.
Yes.
Um, I always like to end my interviews with the following question: if you could change the way the world sees neurodiverse people or autistic people, however you want to phrase it, in one way, what would it be and why?
um I would say every talent matters. Like,
Mm.
every talent matters, whatever that may be.
Hashtag
uh
every talent matters.
right, that's what I say. And also turning disabilities into possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
uh so I think, well, I'm going to give you a list, but I think those two are important, but, and I think the next hashtag would be parents can.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Maisie, thank you so much for coming on my show. Folks, if you want to follow Maisie, look for Autism Career Pathways.
So I have two Instagram accounts. One is ASD Career Pathways. That's where I try to share our journey, for the autism employability. And we're about to do an autistic art exhibition online, which is really exciting. I actually wanted to show you this. This is done locally. Can you see it?
Oh, yeah, I
It's
can
a
see.
Yorkie. It's a Yorkie. So
Oh.
this is done by a local artist here, Kendra. So we're gonna do that online. And so at ASD Career Pathways and at Maisie, Soetantyo is Maisie. That's my parent coach. My parent coaching tips, basically. It's all tips. I try to put videos there that parents have given me permission to share. So that's really, I hope, to be helpful to other parents, just learning little tips, things to do at home. So that's it.
Well, Nancy, thank you so much. All right, folks, this
You're
is
welcome.
Sam here from Heroes of Autism, signing off.
Bye, Sam. Thank
Bye.
you.